Coming up on Arirang News, at least 7 South Korean nationals are dead and 19 others missing after a tourist boat sank on the Danube in Hungary. Several people have been rescued as the search continues into the next day. President Moon Jae-in orders the South Korean government to use all its resources to save the tourists missing from the boat and to support the survivors. Already a team of experienced rescuers are on their way to Budapest. And on Wall Street, stocks continue to take a beating, interest rates signaling recession, plus worries that the U.S. China trade war is going to drag on. It's 4:00 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to our afternoon broadcast. I'm Devin Whiting. Our top story at this hour, still developing. A boat carrying a group of Korean tourists sank in the Danube River in Budapest on Wednesday night local time. That's around 12 hours ago now. Reports say there are at least 7 deaths and many others missing. Our Yoon Jung-min, who is at the travel agency in Seoul that organized the trip on the Danube, joins us now. Jung-min, what's the latest?
All right, Devin. Currently, I'm out here at the travel agency Very Good Tour in Seoul, which was running the trip. So far, 7 South Koreans are rescued and 7 are dead, while a rescue and search operation is still underway for 19 South Koreans who are still missing. Well, on Wednesday night at around 9 p.m. local time, a tourist boat carrying 33 South Koreans and 1 local crew member capsized after a collision with another cruise boat on the Danube River in Budapest. So far, 6 females and 1 male passengers have been confirmed rescued and are being treated at local hospitals. The travel agency refused to disclose information of the dead and the missing. The agency says the rescue operation is underway, but as the accident happened at night and there has been heavy rain in Budapest, this has hindered rescue operations.
So in the meantime, they're not releasing the identities of the passengers, but what do we know about them and the nature of their trip?
It seems so. The travel agency said most of them were on a package tour and some of them were traveling with their family members. Most travelers are said to be in their 40s and 50s. The agency said they were on a six-country tour of Eastern Europe that included visits to Croatia, Slovenia, the Czech Republic, and Hungary, as well as a nighttime cruise on the Danube. The agency said 5 relatives of the passengers departed Incheon for Budapest at 1 a.m. on Thursday, and 11 other relatives or friends of the passengers are going to head for Hungary as soon as they are ready. They added they have contacted all of the families of the passengers. 14 travel agency staffers have also been dispatched to the site. The agency apologized for the accident and said they are currently making every effort to save the victims. That's all I have for you at this hour, but I'll bring more updates on that. Devin?
All right, Yoon Jung-min reporting there. Thank you for that. In the meantime, President Moon Jae-in has cleared his schedule to focus on finding and saving the Korean tourists. He's ordered his government to use all possible means to get them home safe. We go live now to our presidential correspondent, Shin Se-min, for more. Se-min, what's happening at the Blue House?
Right, Devin, the president's attention is entirely on the situation unfolding in Hungary. The presidential office told the press corps a little over 2 hours ago that the president had held an emergency meeting with the members of the related ministers to help find the situation and help with the rescue operations taking place in Budapest, where a lot of the South Koreans are remaining still unaccounted for and are still missing. And the president once again called to use all possible means. This is him.
이미 조치들을 취하고 있을 테지만 실종자에 대한 구조와 수색 작업이 신속히 이루어질 수 있도록 가용할 수 있는 외교 채널을 총동원해서 헝가리 당국과 협력해 주시기 바랍니다.
The presidential spokesperson explained that President Moon during the meeting highlighted the importance of handling the accident in a speedy manner, ordering his government to send out a rescue team and the necessary gear to help speed up the process.
정부는 헝가리 정부와 협력하여 사고 원인을 철저히 조사할 예정입니다. 외교부, 행안부, 국방부, 소방청 등 관계부처는 이번 사고의 수습과 함께 피해자와 피해자 가족 지원을 위해 총력을 기울여 주시기를 다시 한번 당부드립니다.
And also from the meeting, the president ordered the dispatch of a rescue team. And these are experienced rescuers who took part in efforts to save lives when the Sewol ferry sank here in Korea 5 years ago, taking some 300 lives, mostly young students. And the top office added that all developments in the situation taking place in Budapest are being reported to President simultaneously. Devin?
Right, so it sounds like the government is working around the clock to stay on top of what's happening in Hungary and to help with the search and rescue. Is it safe, though, to say that what the president has ordered is being acted on quickly?
Right. If you take a look at some of the orders being given and the measures that are being taken at this moment, you can say it's safe to say that the South Korean government is pulling all strings possible to swiftly handle the situation overseas. But there are limitations given the differences of time and the distance, and that the fact that the first advance team has been dispatched a little over a couple hours ago, which means that they still have some more hours to take place until they reach this location. But regardless, Seoul has decided to send a team that includes a unit with experience in these kinds of rescues, one of which was the Sewol ferry disaster, as well as the members from the Crisis and Emergency Management Center. So the government is determined to help and do its best to bring the Koreans home safe. And it is no exaggeration given the past experiences with ship accidents that the country had seen in the past couple of years. We can see how the local authorities are working to prove themselves that they can handle all things regarding the Korean people. Devin?
All right. Thank you for that. Best of luck to the rescuers, of course, in the meantime. Now, for a little more on the rescue efforts, we now go to Kim Ji-yeon, who is on the line for us from South Korea's Foreign Ministry. Ji-yeon, what's the latest?
Well, Devin, South Korea's foreign ministry has made an announcement on the boat disaster just under 2 hours ago, some 6 hours after its first briefing on the situation. First of all, it says Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-wha will be heading to Budapest today. Once she arrives there, Kang will head the Central Relief Headquarters there to watch over the search and rescue operations, contact the families of the boat passengers, as well as set up an interagency government response team to deal with the situation. The ministry has already sent a response team comprised of Foreign Ministry officials and officials from the National Emergency Management Agency, and says it'll soon dispatch another team of officials to Budapest soon. It says it's making all efforts to get local support from hospitals nearby the site, as well as consular support from Hungary for the prompt and effective search and rescue operations of the South Korean nationals. The ministry has sent its condolences to the victims and their families, especially since the bad weather conditions are hampering the search and rescue operations there, and that there are so far no confirmed additional survivors other than the 7 initially announced. It says it has yet to identify these survivors, the victims or the 19 missing people. Since they were not being able to identify them, it has yet to confirm their nationality. The ministry says it again confirmed that a total of 35 people were aboard the boat. Among them, 33 South Korean nationals, mostly tourists, were on the boat. The other 2 were crew members. As you can see, the figures slightly different from that released by the travel agency. The ministry has confirmed through a Hungarian diplomatic office that the passengers were not wearing life vests. We'll find out more about the root of the incident and why they were not instructed to wear the vests. On the cause of the incident, the Foreign Ministry confirmed once again the boat departed at 8 p.m. local time there, and the incident happened an hour after when the boat was heading back. The boat crashed into a cruise ship that was heading for Slovakia, and this is cited as the main cause of the incident. Currently, the cruise ship in question is being held by Hungarian authorities for investigation. Among the 7 survivors up until now, the ministry says none of the survivors are currently in critical condition. Among the 7, all South Korean nationals, 3 people have already been released from hospital care. Another patient is to be discharged later today, but says it'll keep up with their conditions if they change. Back to you, Devin.
All right, Kim Ji-yeon reporting from the Foreign Ministry. We'll be checking back in with them as the evening progresses and the facts come out. Our hearts go out to the victims and their families, of course. In other news, different parts of the Trump administration see things differently when it comes to North Korea's recent short-range missile tests. Trump has said he doesn't think they were a violation of UN resolutions, but now the acting Secretary of Defense has joined those who think they were a violation. Kim Yo-sun has this report.
Acting U.S. Defense Chief Patrick Shanahan has stated that North Korea's latest test firing of short-range projectiles into the East Sea this month was a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Talking to reporters on Wednesday, Shanahan stressed that what the North fired were indeed short-range ballistic missiles.
These were short-range missiles, and those are a violation of the SCR.
This is the latest assessment that contradicts earlier comments made by President Trump. During his joint press conference with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in Tokyo on Monday, Trump said he didn't think the latest missile tests violated UN resolutions. He also tweeted Sunday that he was not disturbed by the regime's firing of what he called some small weapons. Shanahan, however, also stressed that the Trump administration aims to continue dialogue with the regime while keeping sanctions and pressure in place. Washington's ambassador to Seoul, Harry Harris, also says the U.S. will continue talks with the North despite the regime's latest test launch. Speaking at the Jeju Forum on Wednesday, he highlighted the fact that President Trump is keeping the door open to negotiations. He also praised Trump on how he's dealing with Pyongyang, while adding that the international community needs to be patient. Kim Hyo-san, Arirang News.
South Korean boy band BTS have been selling out their concerts all over the world and topping a number of Billboard charts. The group are now spreading their message of encouragement on the UN's official website. Our Kang Kyung-wha reports.
Scroll down on the homepage of the UN's official website, and there is a video titled BTS at the United Nations. In the video, the South Korean boy band show their support for the UN's End Violence campaign.
We're here today for the UN Generation Unlimited, representing and speaking on behalf of young people. So it is an important issue, and like our Love Yourself campaign, we hope that loving oneself can help heal children and young people who are exposed to any form of violence.
The BTS leader added the boy band also hopes everything they do could be a little help to make people feel better. Another member of BTS, Jimin, spoke of what drives the group.
생각이 나는 것 같아요. 저희로 인해서 그냥 누군가가 조금이라도 더 행복해질 수 있으면 하는 마음에 계속 저희도 이렇게 실천하게 되는 것 같아요.
The 1-minute-long video shows footage of BTS at the launch ceremony of UNICEF's Generation Unlimited in New York last September. There, RM, the leader of BTS, spoke to world leaders gathered at the UN General Assembly and to the fans across the globe, encouraging everyone to speak for themselves no matter who they are. The BTS at the United Nations video has also been posted on UNICEF's YouTube account, getting over 250,000 views since May 16th. Kang Kyung-wha, Arirang News.
South Korea is lowering the tax rate on stock transactions from today. It's a charge levied on all stock transactions, whether the investor made a profit or not, which has angered many who suffered losses last year. The Korea Exchange says the transaction tax for the Kospi and the KOSDAQ is being lowered by 0.05 of a percentage point. So for both markets, the tax will be an even 0.25%. It's expected to lead to an increase to some degree in trading volume. Investors on Wall Street took yet another big hit on Wednesday, not only because it's looking increasingly like the U.S. and China are in for a drawn-out trade war, but also a signal of recession coming from the bond market. Kim Hye-sung reports.
Wall Street retreated Wednesday as the U.S. China trade war continues to show no sign of easing and on concerns over global growth, pushing investors to the relative safety of government bonds. The S&P 500 closed at its lowest point since March 11th, ending under its 100-day moving average for the first time since February. The Dow Jones Industrial Average shed more than 220 points, or 0.9%. The S&P 500 lost 0.7%, and the Nasdaq 0.8%. This as U.S.-China trade tensions continue to weigh on stocks after Chinese state media suggested Beijing may slash exports of rare earth minerals, a key component in devices ranging from smartphones to TVs, opening another front in its trade war with the U.S.
The U.S. economy has been solid this year. All the indicators have been better than expected. But the trade conflict with Beijing could not only hurt the Chinese economy, but also the U.S. and the global economy, affecting intermediary goods and trade. The Trump administration's latest currency tariff threat is also a huge risk factor that could hurt global trade and growth.
As uncertainties over U.S.-China trade tensions continues to grow, global bonds maintained their rally, pulling down yields. The yield gap between the U.S. 10-year Treasury note and the 3-month Treasury bill, often watched as an early signal of a pending recession, slid to a 12-year low of minus 13 basis points. The U.S. dollar rose for a third day versus its major peers, including the Japanese yen. Gold, another investor safe haven, climbed and oil retreated. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
It's time now for an in-depth look at the global markets this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, global strategist at Kiwoom Securities. Mr. Yu, thanks for coming on this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
So as we just heard, stocks in New York down big time overnight. Again, the trade war with China a major factor. European shares were even worse off. Germany, the UK, France, all down more than 1%. Take us through the global trade.
Yes, if you look at the U.S. market, that was down minus 0.87%. S&P was down 0.69%. NASDAQ was down quite significantly as well. But more so, European market was down more than 1 percentage point, where DAX was down 1.57, FTSE was down 1.15, CAC was down 1.7%, Euro stocks in general was down 1.5. So the Chinese market showed somewhat of decline as well. The main reason for that is because U.S. China trade war intensified after Beijing signaled that China is ready to retaliate against U.S. by halting exports of rare earth metals. There are 17 vital commodities around, from tech to the cars. This kind of developed after tit-for-tat tariffs, then the Huawei ban potential by U.S. companies, and then the rare earth ban that might be happening from China's front. With this, global slowdown is a big concern. The yield curve has inverted from where if you look at the 3-month rates and 10 years rates, it has inverted. It happened again since the last year for this year. Now, if you look at the 10 years bond rate, it is at 2.262%, which is one of the lowest since the beginning of the year. Of course, in the past, it did go down to as low as 1.7, 1.8%. But nevertheless, it is indicating that global economy is slowing down. So this is definitely the reason why the global equity markets seem to be showing a volatility at this point in time.
Right. Well, on the Korean market today, the story's been a little different, mixed, but the Kospi was up.
Sure. I think that if you look at it, though, it has gone down so much that it's probably the reason why it's stabilizing. If you look at the economic numbers, the Kospi is down from the peak of 2,200 level around this year. So from the bottom of less than 2,000, it went up by about 10%, but now it's down by almost that much amount. And that's the main reason why I think it's stabilizing. The reason for such a big decline is because of the economic growth numbers are coming in a very weak number at 1.8% growth year on year. The Q-on-Q number was down 0.3% in the first quarter, which is very different from the Chinese numbers or U.S. numbers. One of the main reasons for that is because of the facility investment being very weak. So therefore, we need some kind of changes that are happening in regards to the supplementary budget or any kind of rate changes. So we need to see a more aggressive measure to show some kind of growth might be coming back for Korea. But for the time being, the earnings growth rate as well as the economic growth rates seem to be very timid, and that is resulting into the Kospi being very weak this year.
Got it. Well, in the meantime, we're going to hear soon from the Bank of Korea on interest rates. The consensus seems to be they'll stay at 1.75%. Do you think that's the case? And what's the reasoning at the BOK?
Sure. I think that the rate will be decided probably on the same rate of 1.75%. But there might be some indication that in the future, BOK might be lowering the interest rate. If you look at it right now, the U.S. interest rate is at 2.25 to 2.5%, which is much higher than Korea's 1.75%. That's the reason why that they can't really lower it aggressively because of the money outflow that might be happening. But because of the economic growth rates are weak, so therefore we might expect to see some measures to boost the economies. Probably one part is coming from the fiscal policies, and therefore if you look at it, the 36.6% of the government debt is a percentage of GDP, which is much lower than any other countries. We expect that number to pick up in the future. So monetary policy as well as the fiscal policy might be moving into the direction where it might be boosting the economy in the future.
All right, understood. Mr. Yu, thanks so much for coming on today. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you very much.
Now, as we just heard, the trade war between the U.S. and China rages on, and the U.S. Defense Department has submitted a report to Congress on rare earth minerals, as it hopes to reduce America's reliance on China's vast supplies. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
Rare earth minerals are a group of 17 chemical elements which are used in a wide range of consumer products, from electric car motors to smartphones, as well as military jet engines, satellites, and lasers. With simmering trade tensions between the United States and China, it has raised concerns in Washington that Beijing could use its dominant position as the world's main supplier of rare earths as leverage. With that, the U.S. Defense Department submitted a report to Congress this week with a plan for a federal program designed to bolster production capabilities through targeted economic incentives. While the Pentagon did not provide details, it's hoped the plan will reduce America's reliance on China. Currently, China supplies about 80% of U.S. imports of the minerals. Most rare earth minerals mined outside of China still end up there for processing, with the lone U.S. mine in California also sending its material to China. Due to this, China has used rare earth minerals as leverage in its trade talks, raising tariffs to 25% from the previous 10%, while the U.S. excluded the elements from its own list of prospective tariffs on roughly $300 billion worth of Chinese goods to be targeted in its next wave of tariff measures. Experts say despite the U.S. plan to produce alternative rare earth supplies, it's not something that can happen overnight, as China will use its stronghold on the minerals as a powerful bargaining chip. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Apple has secured a patent for a foldable screen display that could be applied to iPhones and its other devices. According to CNN, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office on Tuesday, local time, granted the patent for an electronic device with a flexible or bendable display and cover. Apple submitted the application in January last year, which was one of a number of patent applications it had drafted around the idea of a foldable display. Samsung and Huawei have been the front runners with foldable phones, but neither of the company's devices have hit the market yet. An analyst told CNN that he believes the earliest Apple could release a foldable smartphone would be late 2020 or early 2021. And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.
Planning a self-guided tour in Korea? We'll let you peek at the most beautiful hours from dawn to night in Korea. Come to Incheon, a city whose glistening morning is precious. Gyeonggi-do will make your heart throb.